Welcome, dear reader. Have you ever wondered why life sometimes becomes difficult without warning? One day, everything feels easy and smooth, and the next day, problems appear like dark clouds in the sky. You may feel tired, confused, or even ready to give up. But what if those hard times are not your enemy? What if they are secretly helping you become stronger than you ever imagined? Imagine walking on a long road that suddenly turns rough and full of stones. At first, you may want to stop. You may wish for the smooth road to return. But as you continue walking, step by step, something begins to change. Your feet grow stronger, your balance improves, and your fear slowly disappears. By the time the road becomes smooth again, you are no longer the same person. You are stronger, braver, and wiser. Now let us enter a world where challenges are not just obstacles, but teachers. A place where every storm carries a lesson and every struggle shapes strength. This is not the story of a person, but the story of life itself. A journey filled with lessons hidden inside difficult moments. In a quiet land, there existed a valley surrounded by tall mountains. The valley was peaceful and calm, where everything grew easily. Trees were always green, rivers flowed gently, and the weather was perfect. Nothing ever changed, and nothing ever struggled. At first, this seemed like the perfect place to live. But over time, something strange began to happen. The trees in the valley became weak. Their roots were shallow because they never had to search for water. The river, once clear, became slow and dirty because it never faced strong winds or rain to clean it. Even the air felt heavy and still. Without challenges, everything had stopped growing. Far away from this valley, beyond the mountains, there was a different land. This land was not peaceful. Strong winds blew across it, heavy rains fell often, and the sun sometimes burned too hot. Life here was not easy. Trees bent under the force of storms, and rivers rushed wildly through rocky paths. Yet, despite the difficulty, this land was full of life and energy. The trees had deep, powerful roots that held them firmly in the ground. The rivers were clear and fresh because the flowing water never stopped moving. Everything here was alive, strong, and constantly changing. One day, a strong wind traveled from the rough land into the quiet valley. At first, the valley resisted. The trees shook in fear because they were not used to such force. Some small branches broke, and leaves fell to the ground. It felt like a disaster. But after the wind passed, something new began to happen. The trees, now aware of the danger, started to grow deeper roots. They slowly learned to stand stronger. The river, disturbed by the wind, began to move faster, cleaning itself as it flowed. The air felt lighter and fresher. Soon after, rain came to the valley for the first time in many years. It was not gentle. It poured heavily, flooding parts of the land. Again, it seemed like trouble. But when the rain stopped, the ground was richer, the plants were greener, and new life began to grow everywhere. As time passed, more changes came. Some days were hot, some were cold, and sometimes storms returned. The valley was no longer a place of perfect comfort, but it was no longer weak either. It had transformed into a place full of strength and life. The mountains that once protected the valley slowly opened small paths, allowing winds and weather to pass through more freely. These changes were not easy, but they were necessary. Without them, the valley would have continued to weaken until nothing could survive. The valley began to understand something important. Comfort had made it weak, while challenges made it strong. Every storm had a purpose. Every difficulty carried a hidden gift. Even the smallest plants learned to adapt. Some grew flexible so they could bend with the wind instead of breaking. Others grew strong stems to stand tall during heavy rain. Each challenge shaped them in a different way. The river, once slow and dull, became fast and clear. It learned to move around rocks instead of stopping. When obstacles appeared, it did not give up. It simply found a new path and continued flowing. The trees, once fragile, now stood proudly against the strongest storms. Their roots reached deep into the earth, holding them steady. They no longer feared the wind. Instead, they welcomed it, knowing it made them stronger. As seasons changed, the valley became a place of balance. It was no longer too easy and no longer too harsh. It had learned to grow through difficulty, not avoid it. Life there was richer, stronger, and more beautiful than before. And slowly, a quiet truth spread across the land. Hard times were not punishments. They were lessons. They were opportunities to grow, to improve, and to discover hidden strength. In the beginning, the valley had everything it wanted: peace, comfort, and ease. But it lacked something more important: strength. Without challenges, it could not grow. Without struggle, it could not improve. The rough land, on the other hand, had faced storms from the start. It had been tested again and again, and because of that, it became powerful and full of life. It did not fear change. It embraced it. The valley and the rough land were not so different after all. They were simply at different stages of growth. One had learned its lessons early, while the other had to learn them later. As time moved forward, the valley became a place where both peace and challenge existed together. It no longer feared hard times. Instead, it understood their value. Whenever a storm appeared, the valley did not panic. It prepared. It stood firm. It remembered that after every storm, something new and better would grow. And so, the valley continued to change, to grow, and to become stronger with each passing day. It had learned that strength is not given. It is built through experience. So, dear reader, when you face hard times in your own life, remember the story of the valley. Remember that difficulty is not the end of your journey. It is part of it. Just like the trees, the river, and the land, you are growing in ways you may not yet understand. Hard times may shake you, challenge you, and even make you feel weak. But they are also shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more capable. Every problem you face is helping you build strength for the future. The road may not always be smooth, but it is leading you somewhere important. And one day, when you look back, you will see that those difficult moments were the ones that made you truly strong.